really wanted to focus on a topic that was, I feel like, focuses more on really bringing out the common sense. Because not common sense, but sometimes like other things in life hide the common sense, and you're like, oh, it's common sense. We're gonna ignore it because I'm gonna go play video games. We're gonna go do this, or I'm gonna get distracted by other aspects of life. Which I mean, it happens to the best of us. But I'm gonna be that kind of person that brings you back to earth with my amazing presentation, the dot. Okay, without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so everyone in life has a certain philosophy, right? If you haven't figured it out now, don't worry, it'll come to you in the future. But for me, even though according to probably a lot of parents, she's like, oh my god, she's 16, why is she like lecturing us on life? Don't worry, got it back. For me, I'm an artist, so a lot of things in my life I like to relate to art. I've been drawing since I was little, so I like to express my emotions through art. I like to express. I remember when I was little, I was doing math, and I got really frustrated at this one problem. So I just gave up, and I drew a little girl with an angry face and like her hair on fire instead of doing the math problem. So that was just my way of coping with stress and other like emotions that burden me a lot. And I'm sure other of you have other ways, by like either go to the gym or listening to music or hanging out with your friends, which all of those coping mechanisms are really valid. And over time, those ways of coping and these feelings that you feel as you learn to de-stress yourself, they help shape how you go about your life or your life philosophy. So for me, my philosophy is that our life is like a blank canvas, right? And if you're not an artist, congrats. Today you're an artist. You're gonna paint a blank canvas just like this. And now, my canvas, I think that the actions in our life are what shape our canvas. So let's say, as an artist, I start with my painting. I don't really have an idea when I paint usually at most of the time. I kind of just sit there, and it takes me a few minutes, I come up with an idea. But I like to think that, like, in life, obviously you don't have your whole life planned out. Just like how when I paint, I don't have a general idea of what this is going to look like, because I'm a person who, over time, most likely I'm going to add some of this, some of that. So I don't really have a structure that I have, or a complete picture of my painting yet. Same thing with life. I like to think it that way. I don't know what I'm going to be in 20 years. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. So it's like something that I'm going to have to let play out in my life. I've learned to not go stressed about that. Just like how I'm painting, I'm not worried about how it's going to turn out, because in the end, it's something that I created with my actions. And so it's something that I should be proud about. Another metaphor that I think I thought about this, someone mentioned it to me, and I think it also relates really well, is pottery. I don't know how many of you guys have worked with clay before, but when you're working with clay, you start with a structure, right? Usually, in elementary school, they give you like a small slab, and they say, oh, make a pinch pot, or make a clown, or make a dog, or whatever you want. But you start with a slab, and you start shaping it, and over time, you don't just magically start attaching things. You have to start shaping it over time. And like in life, your actions are going to be shaping who you are. No matter how big they are, no matter how small they are, every single action, whether you know it or not, it's going to shape you in the future. Just like how in pottery, every single little detail, you have to start with its base structure, right? So like, let's say you're building a dog. You need the body. You can't just start attaching ears and make it like some random dog with flying ears. You need to start with the base. Just like in this picture here, this person's starting from the base. It looks like they're making a base. In life, you need to start with sort of building. And over time, your actions are going to be the ones to shape whatever you make. So, over here are a bunch of quotes and other advice that I don't know if they're all philosophers, but definitely a lot of people have, over time, through their lives, they've come up with these pieces of advice, and I just looked it up on the internet, pieces of life advice. But as I said earlier, you in the future, you're gonna come up with a lot of, along with your experiences and the people that you meet and the things that you go through, you're gonna slowly start coming up with your own philosophy. For me, I've lived a grand 16 years of my life, which I know very impressive. And throughout my life, even though I'm not as old as my parents, I've lived through enough, I I've met enough people, and I've experienced enough to kind of help myself do the right things, in my opinion, that'll help me guide myself along the right path in the future. For example, let's say 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, let's say a little bit about myself first. Since you guys probably don't know me, I'm a theater kid. I've done theater for around 4 years now, which is probably the best decision of my life. I joined the drama club after school in 7th grade, fresh out of elementary school. And at first I was really hesitant because it was like, I feel like drama kids have a really bad reputation, which is totally wrong, by the way. If you haven't met a drama kid, you definitely should. They're really nice people. But I joined the drama club, and my first impression was this place is not for me because I was really introverted at the time. There were people like throwing toilet paper everywhere. There was people, I kid you not, I walk into the drama club classroom and this kid is trying to eat hand sanitizer. Like, I don't know why. Who told me it was a good idea? But he's crushing the little mold next to that hand sanitizer bottle. But he's like trying to, I don't even know, I know, it was a long time ago. But it was definitely a really chaotic experience. I was like, you know what? New middle school, new me, let's just try this out, see how it goes. So I gave it a shot, and I went to my first play 2 months later, and I think, like I said, it was probably the best experience, or the best decision I've ever made. Because if I hadn't decided to pursue drama, I do not think I would be the person I am today. And if you've seen me at camp, your first impression of me is probably, she yells a lot, she flies a lot, she yells a lot, and she falls down, and she creates a lot of chaos, which I'm guilty of. But through drama, I've learned that the best way to go about your life is to really just let yourself be who you want to be. I know Kayleen and Ashley talked about this in their presentation earlier, but you don't need to try to be popular. You don't need to try to make people like you, because if they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they don't like you. I learned that through drama as well. Through really expressing myself and not caring as much what people think. And that's why whenever people do presentations or like whenever I'm talking to people, I kind of wanted them to feel the same way. Like, it's okay to be comfortable. Like, I'm allowing you to be comfortable. You don't need to try to be awkward, or you don't need to try to fake a conversation with me, small talk or anything like that. Just be who you are. And I really appreciate that type of thing with people. So next here, we're going to go back to that canvas analogy I talked about. Like I said, today you guys are all going to learn how to be artists. So I want you guys to envision a canvas, right? If you were to paint your canvas in a certain way according to your life, or however you want, how would you paint your canvas? It's a rhetorical question, you want to answer it. But I just want you to envision, like, would it be colorful? Would it be spotty? Would there be people in it? Like, what type of symbolism would you have? And kind of, once you've envisioned that, I want you to also ask yourself, if you were to finish your entire painting, and in the end, I ask you, can you tell me, or can you explain to me every single detail in your painting? Just think about it. Would that be a yes or a no? Like, if you showed me your painting, I was like, oh, it's really cool. So, like, what's this tree symbolism? Or why'd you add these details over here? Could you explain to me all of it? Well, in my opinion, how I see it is that if I were to paint my canvas, there'd be a main idea, right? A central subject or whatever for the viewer to focus on. And there would obviously be a lot of other details. But what I think tends to happen if you were to look at an artwork, for example, and I asked the artist to explain a singular detail on their painting, while someone else may not be able to fully explain it, the artist definitely could, because it's their painting, right? They remember every single detail, most of the time, and they know why that detail is there. But if a regular person were to just look at the painting, they would see the main idea. They wouldn't be able to tell the symbolism between a tiny detail or not. So that brings me to my next point. The big picture versus the small picture. In our lives, we tend to focus on the main events, such as, let me give you an example. You're focusing on a big test, that's the next day at school. And rather than, your friend invites you to a birthday party and you happen to forget about it because you're stressing about this one test, right? That's an example of focusing on the big picture instead of the small picture, because you're so stressed and all your feelings, your anxiety, and all of your emotions are just focused on, I gotta do well on this test, it's gonna impact my grade if I don't do good. And then, let's say you show up to your friend's birthday, and you're still thinking about that test. You can't bring yourself to enjoy the moment of your friend's big day, because you're so stressed about this test. And you really feel bad about it, because like, hey, it's my friend's big day, I should be happy for them. But you just can't, because all of your emotions are around this test. And in our lives, I myself am also guilty of this. We tend to focus on such big events, and we end up neglecting smaller things. Like, for example, let's say you had a test and you ended up getting only 3-4 hours of sleep. Well, if you look at it in total, you're not going to do well on the test if you don't get that much sleep, right? Same thing with other events. Focusing on the big picture, such as, well, I can't think of another example, but my point is, as it says up here, too often in life we get caught up with all these big things, these exams, these deadlines. We just forget to honestly appreciate our living. Let's just, like, in the end, we're only human, right? So what I'm trying to say is that by focusing on the big picture too often, we tend to neglect other things that make us human. Like, for example, getting a good amount of sleep, taking care of our mental health, taking care of our hygiene, things like that. And when you get caught in that system of focusing on one big thing after another, you will end up seeing that your conversations with other people, like your family, your friends, your loved ones, they become less genuine and authentic. And that's because all of these emotions are clouding your head, and it makes you only think about yourself and how you want to get out of this kind of anxiety spiral. So I'm going to talk about ways we can fix this. And honestly, I know in this day and age, mental health is something that's been brought up a lot more, which is, honestly, I think it's appreciated a lot, because definitely a lot of incoming freshmen and even middle schoolers, you guys need to hear about this, because in our lives, it's really difficult to always stay authentic to other people and stay genuine. But a way of doing this is, number one, self-care. Contrary to popular belief, self-care is not selfish. And let me define it for you real quick. Self-care, let's say after a long day of school, I decide to go home and read a book. Instead of jumping right into schoolwork, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to read a book. I'm going to pick a book that I really like, maybe I've read it before. I'm going to read it, I'm going to calm down, grab myself a snack maybe. I'm not going to spend an excessive time reading the book, because I still have things I'm going to do. But I'm going to allow myself to settle in this moment while I'm reading my book. I'm not going to worry about school. I'm not going to worry about what I have to do tomorrow. I'm not going to worry about what I have to do tonight, like making dinner. I'm just going to enjoy this 30 minutes of myself reading this book. What is selfish in terms of, well, it's selfish. What is excessive in terms of self-care is, we're going to go back to League of Legends, since this was brought up a lot today. Spending 8 hours of League of Legends. Let's not do that. Or better, just don't play League of Legends, honestly. Don't play League of Legends. Self-care is something that, if it's done in large amounts, it becomes unhealthy, because you end up neglecting things that you need to do, like your schoolwork, or taking care, or, well, not really taking care of yourself, but deadlines that need to be met. So self-care, like I said, engaging in a hobby maybe, like reading a book, or talking to friends, socializing, these things help you become more grounded with yourself. They help you ground yourself to earth, and really, well, it's not the right thing I wanted to say. They help really allow yourself to be more human in that sense. Instead of worrying about things that are going to happen in the future, by engaging in self-care, you're able to really ground yourself in the present, which I think a lot of people, myself included, I tend to worry a lot about the future or the past, and honestly, I think a really big message that I wanted to share today is that a really important thing is to just live in the present. And a way of doing that is by self-care, just really engaging in whatever you do, whether it's reading a book or going outside, just really appreciate whatever you're doing. Another thing, which also connects to it, is being present. Being present is something that also connects to self-care, in that if you're doing, let's say you're reading a book, like I said, and I'm worried about school rather than reading my book, I'm not being present in the moment. Or I'm having a conversation with someone else, like my family, right? And I'm I'm like absent-mindedly trailing along. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And maybe this person is talking to me about something they're really passionate about. That's, first of all, not very kind of me to do, and it's also unfair to them because they're really excited to talk to me. And I'm not being present in this moment by worrying about other things or letting my mind chill out, which most of the time it's something that's unconscious. Like, you don't want to do this, like, you really care about this friend, you want to listen to them. But in that sense, if you're worried too much about other things and you're not present in the moment, you end up hurting yourself and other people. So a way by being present is, let's say, after school, well, I just use another after school analogy. Let's say after dinner, you're going for a walk outside, right? Just going for a walk outside with the dog. Just really enjoy that moment instead of worrying about other things. It helps you be present with yourself. It helps you, like how we do meditation in CSS, you really feel yourself in your own body. You're able to feel that you're there in that moment. Nothing else matters, and tomorrow will come, and you can worry about tomorrow. For today, just focus on what you're doing and really enjoy what you're doing. The future is to come, and when the future comes, just take care of it. Because, all the bad days that have happened, you've gone past them, right? And when a bad day comes, you just need to collect yourself, focus on what you can do, and then you'll be able to move past it. So the third thing that I have up here is taking time. Similar to being present, taking time allows yourself to recollect and really settle in the moment that you're being in. Let's say we're going to go back to my painting analogy. For me, taking time to work on a painting really helps me because painting to me is a sort of self-care in that sense. I really enjoy painting. So then painting has to take time. And sometimes I get you in trouble because my friends are like, oh my god, it's time to eat dinner and I'm just painting. But it's something I really enjoy doing because it helps me collect myself and it helps me really settle in my moment. And I think that other hobbies that you guys might enjoy, like obviously not spending excessive time playing video games or like excessive time playing games or whatever, or any other hobby, just allowing yourself to settle in whatever you do and taking time to really appreciate that moment, it'll help you regain your thoughts and have have confidence in the next step you're gonna do. For example, after I'm done painting, I feel more calm, and I'm not worried about what I'm gonna have to do next until that moment comes, if that makes sense. So, my next point, there we go. My concluding message is that your life is your own. No matter what other people say, a lot of people are gonna try to control you into a person they want you to be. If they don't like you, they're gonna push that belief upon you, like, hey, I really don't like you. Or let's say other people, your peers, or other people are gonna try to force you into a lifestyle you don't want. In those moments of stress or like anxiety, all those three things that I mentioned earlier, those really help you just settle within yourself and come up with the next right thing to do. What I mean by your life is your own is that just let yourself be who you are. You don't need to worry about the future. Just let yourself appreciate every moment that you live, because in the end, you're only human. And all of your struggles that happen, they don't happen to you, they happen for you. And these struggles are going to help you grow as a person. Every bad day lets you grow as a person. And at the end of the day, you're human, and what you do is always the best, no matter what other people say. So yeah, that's my talk.